Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Career Retrospectives right here on the Super Review Show. I am joined by my good man Kyle and Mike. What's going on, guys?
Hey,
Oh, what's going on?
So glad to have you all back once again. And I just want to point out for those of you who are listening to us, you won't be able to see this, but if you go to our YouTube channel, Kyle's head is literally being touched by the background. It's so funny. He's being patted on the head. It's great.
Yes.
Had to point that out. So, and Mike looks like
Mike is being eaten.
Oh, man.
Looks like the Scorpions are gonna have a sting for you. Whatever. Oh,
Yeah.
no. Bad jokes.
Yeah.
But as the title of this video suggests, we're gonna be breaking down and talking about Scorpion's most recent release, Rock Believer. Yes, I'm actually very excited to talk about this one. I'm sure we all are as well. But let's start over with Kyle, shall we? What was your, initial thoughts, initial impressions on the most recent Scorpions album, Rock Believer?
I wasn't sure what to expect going into it. I'm going to be honest. This was, and I know I was just saying it before the stream to Mike, before he had suggested doing this album. It's just kind of an album that passed me by. Like I knew it came out, but there were so many other things coming out around that time that it took a back seat and I kind of forgot to go back to it. So I didn't really know what to expect. And we've covered a couple of them on here, but after a string of classic rock bands putting out albums that I didn't really care for, that were not great, kind of worried about it. I was very wrong. I really like this album. It's the first one we've talked about in a while that actually it's not a top heavy album. It's actually consistent throughout. It manages to keep itself entertaining all the way through, which I will say, if anything, I think it's the opposite of top heavy. I think that the later songs are slightly better. I did get a little worried in the first 4 songs, maybe 3 songs actually, because I started thinking oh man, the first 3 songs, they're very much just your standard glam hair metal type thing. And I was like, oh, is this going to be the whole thing? And then it's not. It really changes up past that point. It has aspects of, the old glam sound, some just usually stereotypical classic rock sound, has even some songs have a punk kind of vibe going on, has your acoustically driven ballads. I don't think any of the songs here are fully acoustic except for on the bonus tracks. Really overall, fantastic listen. And wow, if you told me this came out in their heyday in the 70s and 80s, I wouldn't doubt it. They still have the same guitar tone, which I very much appreciate. And man, his voice is still incredible. I haven't seen any live videos of them recently, so I don't know if that's studio magic or whatever. But man, dude sounds absolutely incredible on this. Lyrics are hit and miss, but that's pretty standard for this type of thing, especially with they're a German band. You can't expect perfection. So overall, yeah, it delivered exactly what I wanted from a Scorpions album in 2022, and definitely my favorite classic rock album. Well, album by a classic rock artist, at least in the past couple of years.
Awesome. Mike, what do you got?
Yeah, it has some consistency. It definitely throws some curveballs at you with some songs I just didn't expect to sound to come off a certain way, and I was actually kind of surprised and impressed at that. It's definitely got those hard hitting tracks, and it's got that kind of spunk, from the old days, and it's definitely a album that keeps you guessing about what direction they're going to head in. Where I didn't feel I felt the weaker songs came at the end with the deluxe edition, or some of those songs.
I agree.
Only one song maybe I thought was actually changed my idea of those added songs that they didn't add to the other release. But yeah, overall, I enjoyed the album. It was definitely a good time to listen for a band I just didn't even know had an album out. And for me, I've always listened to their hits. I've never been an album guy for them, and I unfortunately have that problem with a lot of groups, and I've always been like a greatest hits, and I'm trying to become more of an album guy where I need to be. And yeah, this was just a well done album, and it definitely I enjoyed listening to it for sure.
And yeah, I also just want to clarify. You mentioned the deluxe edition. When I had mentioned the better songs being towards the end, I was referring to the standard edition.
Yeah.
I will agree the deluxe tracks were a little
Yeah, for sure.
Need we say more, gentlemen? Like this is an all. I mean, you want to talk about a band with the first thing I noticed initially was, holy crap, the lead singer sounds the same practically from the 80s. I don't even know his name, but I'm like, holy crap, you sound great, whoever you are. Like,
Klaus.
thank you. Yeah.
Well, bless you. Oh, you didn't sneeze. Never mind. I'm sorry. I thought you sneezed there.
Wait, what?
Klaus.
Gesundheit. No, I'm just kidding.
Gesundheit.
No, but this is, I mean, as someone who's not like, someone who's into like newer albums by older artists, whether it be from anyone from like Scorpions to Def Leppard, we talked about before, even Paul McCartney. I'm always fascinated by what older artists do for like when they put out a new album. And when whoever, I think it was Mike who said this, right? Who said Scorpions today, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. When Mike was like, let's do this, the Scorpions latest release, I'm like, okay, I kind of have an idea of what I'm getting into. I guess, you know, I'm like, all right, whatever. And I got to tell you straight up, this is a fantastic album. I mean, from start to finish. I mean, yes, we're talking about the deluxe edition mainly because that's the one we're reviewing. Because, but I agree with you guys to the last like little bit there of the deluxe edition. Those tracks were kind of like, but for the most part, though, sound wise, vocals. I mean, if there is a studio trick, they did a really good job preserving his voice. If not, his voice sounds great still. But I mean, this is just an all-around banger of an album. I don't use that term often, but this is actually really a banger. I got to admit, I was rocking pretty hard when I was listening to it. Like, this is great. So I was so happy that we kind of all came full circle. I mean, Mike was saying like, "Hey, we got to find out." And we all kind of agree upon it. And I guess we all kind of agreed upon that this one's pretty darn good. So,
and the dude is 74 years old, by the way. I was kind of shocked by that. I was like, damn, dude. I think one of the lyrics in the first song of Gas in the Tank, he says, there's plenty of gas in my Trans Am. Wham, bam. Thank you, man. I'm like, Grandpa, please stop this. Take your medication and lie down. That one, yeah, I was like, my God, I was shocked. But I was like, all right, calm down, Mike. Let him relive his heydays and let's do it. You know, I'm okay with it. But
exactly. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, thank you for giving the suggestion because I didn't even know the Scorpions put out a new album until you said it. I'm like, whatever, let's give it a shot. And sure enough, I'm like, this is sounding just like it's like Kyle said. It sounds exactly like they would have come out back in the 80s or 70s, whatever. And sure enough, it shows that bands can still do it this well. Not all, but some bands can do it still well, really this late in their career, which is great. Let's jump over to the Wikipedia page for a second and let's talk about Rock Believer. I was so why don't we let Kyle like are we gonna do the track listing? Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the track listing. I'll read off the track listings and I'm gonna give the run times this time because I know I haven't done this a little bit, but there's Gas in the Tank, 3 minutes and 40 seconds. Roots in My Boots, 3 minutes and 17 seconds. Knock 'Em Dead, 4:11. Rock Believer, 3:57. Shining of Your Soul, 3:57 again. Seventh Son, 5:30. If I'm reading that right, sorry. Hot and Cold, 4:12. When I Lay My Bones to Rest, 3:07. Peacemaker, 2:56. Call of the Wild, 5:20. When You Know Where I Come From, 4:22. And for the deluxe tracks, Shoot for Your Heart, 4:01. When Tomorrow Comes, 3:47. Unleash the Beast, 4:17. And last two is Crossing Borders at 3:38. And there's an acoustic version of When You Know Where You Come From, acoustic version, 3:44. Let's get into it. Kyle, takeaway tracks. What are your favorites? What do you got?
Favorites on here, quite a bit, but the standout ones for me, I gave them all top score, 10 out of 10s. Rock Believer, that one, it's great. I'll get into it more in a minute, but for me, it was Rock Believer, Gas in the Tank, When I Lay My Bones to Rest, and When You Know Where You Come From were my tops from here. So Gas in the Tank to me is very much perfect song to open this album. It's just, hey, we're still here. We can still do this. And they really proved it. Unlike other bands recently, we mentioned Def Leppard a few weeks ago. Scorpions really proved it here. They can still do it and they can still deliver exactly what we want from them. Rock Believer, really like the dynamics on this song. It's the first song on the album that's really more than just a fun glam song. It really comes off as just a message to both fans of the band, but also just rock as a whole. Just feels very fitting for the band at this stage in their career. And I actually see the song being a hit even today. Maybe not mainstream radio, but I could see this even going on like a rock radio station and becoming a hit in the rock community. Other than that, When I Lay My Bones to Rest, I really like the punk influence on this song. It really comes off of a trail on the album that I'm not the biggest into. It's probably the biggest downside to me is that middle section kind of slows it down for a bit, goes into like a darker route, and then this kind of picks it back up with a punk influence on it. I could see it being a super fun song live. And then I think When You Know Where You Come From, really nice ballad to end the album on. And I think it has a really good message about like staying true to yourself. And I think that's exactly what they did on this album, is stay true to who they were, making the music that they wanted to and the sound that they wanted to. Least favorites though. We'll start from the top here and go down. Roots in My Boots. Really didn't care for this one. Something about the way he sings Roots in My Boots really bothered me. I don't know what it was. Just in my ears, it didn't like resonate well. And it just reminded me of being like, there's a snake in my boot. And I don't know why, but it just threw out the whole song for me. I don't know. That one, it was corny in a bad way. Like there's a way to do corny stuff in a good way. That kind of missed the mark for me. Shining of Your Soul. It wasn't a bad song, but it's just kind of middle of the road for me. It's a darker sound than the other parts of the album by far. Just doesn't work as well for me, but it's not bad. It's just middle of the road. Then we have Hot and Cold, which is by far my least favorite here. Has the cringiest lyrics on the album. Borderline creepy. I wrote some of them down. I got a fever, 100 degrees. A crazy fever, won't you help me please? Then a few lines later, hungry eyes stare at you, watching the things you do. Not much more to say there. It's creepy. I don't care for it. And also just the song itself doesn't do much for me. But yeah,
maybe he was just hangry and he hadn't had his like middle day meal or something, Hey,
it could have been an ode to McDonald's or something. I have no idea. But yeah, that was it. And then we're talking deluxe edition tracks. I did not like When Tomorrow Comes. Again, cringy lyrics. Super. I thought it was a pretty lame song. Bassline was cool. It's about all I had on there that like pick that one up. Like, I also have lyrics from this one too. World, how do you feel? You look so tired. Sometimes I think you're gonna stop turning around. I don't know. It's definitely the most modern sounding thing that they did on this album. I don't think it was great because the thing I liked about this album was that it was the Scorpion sound. They weren't trying to modernize their sound. They weren't trying to be what they're not. It just didn't come across very well in that. And the rest, they were all good songs. I mean, Peacemaker I thought was great. The others, other than the ones I mentioned, I thought all the other ones were good. Good, borderline great songs. But I think the ones that really stuck out to me, like I said, Gas in the Tank, Rock Believer, When I Lay My Bones to Rest, and When You Know. those ones by far top of the bunch for me.
Awesome. Mike, what do you got? What are some of your favorite tracks?
All right. So my standout tracks was obviously Rock Believer. That's just it's just a good song. It's got some good change ups, starts off a certain way. I mean, this guy's got a great voice, and when he does the soft parts and then he comes in and a great chorus, just an overall 10 out of 10 for me, Rock Believer. Also, obviously when you know where you come from, and Tracy and I were both listening to that together, and she was like, wow, this is a great song. And like the lyrics are just great. And the overall feel of that is just great. Definitely a good way to wrap up the album, and almost like a message to the fans, like they know where they come from and where and what time they came from, and how they arrived in this current music climate, which is a very kind of scary climate, and they're remaining true to who they are, regardless of what's out there, what's going on. Like you were talking about Def Leppard, it's like they clearly kind of forgot where they came from, and it's like, they're kind of relying on some of these new techniques and tricks to kind of sound like very not unlike themselves. And and I think that was it was a touching kind of message, whether they meant it or not. So another top track for me, which I was actually surprised, I kind of actually love when they get into that cheesy kind of like glam sound. If anything, it was in those moments that I was like feeling more in my element when it came to like what I expected. Even though a song like actually a song that I loved on there was "Shining of Your Soul." I thought that was a great song, and I loved the vibes and the kind of feel like it went from like a straightforward rock riff kind of, Gas in the Tank is just kind of like it's just a riff, a nice riff song with that kind of cheesy glam sound too. Like Shining of Your Soul just had like this almost like reggae kind of feel to it, this like mood feeling to it. And I like that. I like the curveballs, because like it's nice to know that a band isn't one dimensional, and they can kind of show some other sounds. And weirdly enough, Tracy picked out a song by the Pretty Reckless actually sounds a lot like that song. It's weird. I forget what song it is, but the chorus is like that same kind of it kind of has that same pattern to it, but not quite as direct as that. But I was actually surprised. I was like, oh crap, like interesting. I wonder if one was influenced by the other, or it was just a happenstance. I don't know. But I thought that was kind of cool. A song that I actually thought I was going to hate, but I actually warmed up to it, was Seventh Son. It was a little slower, and I was kind of like, it doesn't feel like it's going anywhere. But for some reason, which is unlike me, it worked for what it was doing, and it didn't need to go anywhere. It just kind of remained in that slow kind of plodding kind of vibe. It almost felt Iron Maiden-esque in its kind of plodding, trotting kind of momentum. And I was actually impressed that it warmed up to the rating I gave. I was about to give it a low rating, and I came, somewhere in the realm of like a 7 or 7.5, which I did not expect from me. I know when I hate something, and I generally don't warm up. Least favorite one, Roots in My Boots. Absolutely. I am not a repetitive guy. And when you roots in my boots, roots in my boots, roots in my boots, like, we get it, man. Like, and you just keep doing it through the whole song, and it's not even a good chorus. It's just repeating something with a little bit of melody behind your voice. You know what I mean? There's just not much to it. Like, and I just, that. And another one, When Tomorrow Comes, was a 4 out of 10 for me. I hated that song. And like, I actually was like, wow, this song really is terrible. But another song I absolutely loved was Shoot for Your Heart. If anything, when I heard that on the deluxe edition, and I was just like, oh crap, like this has like a nice opening, and it's got that kind of glam rock feel to it. I mean, the title just screams like that glam rock sound. Shoot for Your Heart sounds like something Motley Crue would, do or whatever, Yeah, like it was definitely cool. And definitely had some interesting little kind of change ups on it. Gas in the Tank was a solid song. Shoot for the Heart. When You Know, the acoustic version, didn't feel like it added much. Wasn't a fan of When I Lay My Bones to Rest. I actually had that one scored pretty low. I mean, and it's par for the course. If Kyle loves it, I'm generally like, I mean, for the most part. I mean, there's some stuff we agree on, but yeah.
So far, we seem to agree on most of this album.
Yeah, I mean,
that one's really the one that we really disagree on.
Yeah, I mean, I'm impressed that there is more of an agreement and coming across as like a general, agreement on where we sit and stand and what the ones we like. Yeah. So I mean, yeah. Overall, didn't feel too long, didn't feel too repetitive. At times it did, but not like a Knock 'Em Dead. Another one of those like songs that wasn't huge on, but it wasn't too bad. It was just like, a little gimmicky, but it's not. It could, there's worse songs out there than what these guys worst, what they could be bringing. So yeah, I mean, solid album,
And Mike, I find it interesting you brought up Iron Maiden when talking about Seventh Son, because I took it another way. That song scored decently high for me too. We're actually almost in the same plane with that. I went a little higher, 8. I really like the cool groove it has going on throughout, but it gave me a Load era Metallica feel.
Wow.
Like that groove that it had going on reminded me of that. Like when I first heard it, I was like, wow, that's where that comes from. So I find it really interesting how we had 2 different takeaways from there.
Interesting. Huh. Load. Oh God.
And that's a whole nother story. But I also, you're talking about Shoot for Your Heart. I really like that song as well. I actually had in my notes, I forgot to mention it. If you took Shoot for Your Heart and Crossing Borders from the deluxe and switched out Roots in My Boots and Hot and Cold, the album would have scored even higher for me. But we'll get to that later.
Yeah. It's funny because most of the time, like, when I go into an album, I'm like, all right, I'm going into an album. I'm curious to see what I take away from it and whatnot. This is crazy, Mike. We're all 3 of us are almost on the same page on this. It's actually pretty funny. Like, as far as the takeaway songs for me personally, Gas in the Tank, and Gas in the Tank, Rock Believer. I'm on Kyle's side with When I Lay My Bones to Rest. Sorry, Mike.
That's okay.
Just saying. But, I'm just saying. Peacemaker I thought was good too. As far as like the deluxe edition tracks go, Shoot for Your Heart I thought was actually really good as well. Truthfully, I'm a big fan of when hard rock or heavy metal bands make like one acoustic song, like More Than Words by Extreme or Guns N' Roses Patience. I've always liked that stuff. So for me personally, When You Know Where You Come From acoustic version, I thought it was actually pretty. I thought it was actually pretty cool. Truthfully, I like when they like Everlong by Foo Fighters did an acoustic cover too of that too. So I've always liked when like hard rock bands do stuff like that. So I was automatically into that for the deluxe edition. But overall, I mean, takeaways: Gas in the Tank, Rock Believer, When I Lay My Bones to Rest, Peacemaker. But just there was, you're right, there was a couple of curveballs here and there, but overall, this is a solid, incredible, just a really great album to listen to from start to finish, and for the deluxe edition too. My one thing though is it's 11 tracks long at 44 minutes. Let's just say hypothetically, Scorpion's like, all right, we're gonna take like Shoot for Your Heart and Unleash the Beast and put it on the regular track list. And that's 13 tracks. Would that? I mean, Kyle said that it would have been his higher. Mike, would it have made your rating a little higher than it already is? If the deluxe edition didn't exist and it was just those 13 tracks, or you swap a couple of those deluxe edition tracks out to make it into the regular track listing, would either one of you, would that make it like higher for you guys at all?
It would make it a little higher for me if we added them, but if we took out the ones I didn't care for and replaced them with those 2, it would definitely make a difference in the score for me.
Okay. Yeah, right, exactly. If you took out some of the ones, exactly. If we just not adding them, but actually replacing them with some of them, definitely would have, because I mean, adding them in would have just kind of like, would have tweaked that score too much because those other songs would still remain. So yeah, definitely, for sure. Those were definitely some gems that were kind of down on the page that were like, be in the main album and should have been right there.
I'm almost surprised that the deluxe edition was 5 tracks. And I mean, I'm glad they wrote as many songs as they did. I'm just surprised like the deluxe edition was that many extra tracks. You know what I mean? So I don't know. It's just something I observed. But,
did anyone check out Go the Lights? I didn't check it out, but
no.
No, I didn't check it out either because it's the Japanese edition bonus track. So I didn't bother to go that far.
See, I always have a little sidebar for a sec. I always have an issue. I don't like when bands release deluxe editions like alongside the regular release of an album.
Right.
I've never liked that. I always feel like you should wait for like an anniversary of the album and put out like outtakes on it.
Yep.
I understand having like the country deluxe, like country specific ones, because like they do it in Japan, for example, because CDs cost significantly more in Japan, so they wanted to incentivize people to buy them. That was the whole thought process behind that.
Yeah.
But specifically like 10 years ago, it started to be a huge thing where artists would be like, here's the standard edition. But if you go to Best Buy and buy it, you get 3 extra tracks.
Exactly.
If you go to Target, you get this. I'm like, I just want all the songs. I want them all in one place. Like I want like what you wrote, like what is your artistic vision that you put out? Like you made it the standard album for a reason. That's kind of what I want to hear. And I want to hear the extras after, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. I mean,
remember when people bought music at Best Buy? Those are good days.
The good old days of buying physical media.
I used to go there. I used to go every time the album release day was and pick up the album.
Oh man, that's crazy.
Now I just have to put them on Amazon because it's the only place that stocks them the day of.
Yeah, exactly.
Bummer. But overall, those are my standout tracks. Like I said, Gas in the Tank, not Knock 'Em Down. Sorry, Rock Believer, When I Lay My Bones to Rest, Peacemaker, and When You Know Where You Come From. And as far as the deluxe edition goes, Shoot for Your Heart as well. That was another one that just stood out to me. But yeah, like this. I mean, overall, I mean, it's. If you haven't checked it out immediately, I mean, it came out was back earlier in February of 2022 already. Jeez, it came out February 25th, 2022. Why didn't we hear about it until just now? That's a better question.
Right.
So, but any other thoughts? Anything else you guys want to touch on at all for this at all? Overall lasting impressions, final thoughts, anything else?
I'll just go into my rating.
Rating. Duh. Sorry about that.
So for me, I found this album to be very good. It didn't, at no point did it get boring. I never, it's 45 minutes long. At no point while listening to it did I think, wow, this feels long. At no point did it get stale. They did enough change ups. And, even if some of them didn't work, they at least changed it up, kept the album listening experience interesting, which is something that you can't say for a lot of albums lately, at least in 2022 for the ones I've listened to this year.
Yeah.
Really, really solid album. I give the standard edition a 4 out of 5. If taking the deluxe into account, I'd give that a 3.75. I don't care for those songs as much, but 4 out of 5 for the standard edition.
All right, Mike, what's your rating for Rock Believer?
Yeah, I was definitely, this deluxe edition was definitely the lower score of the score. I definitely was. So I was a 3.5 out of 5 for the standard album, and then the deluxe edition is probably sitting somewhere down like closer to like 3.2 or 3 depending. But 3.5 out of 5 is definitely a solid album. Not blowing my mind away. It's very hard for me to get up and that's higher scores with certain albums, but definitely not a disappointment in any stretch of the imagination. And I'm really curious what's next, and if that momentum continues, and I'm looking forward to hearing the next album they deliver. Yeah, for sure. So
Awesome. Well, this was kind of a quick one for us, I gotta admit. I mean, but I mean, my I mean, it was like we're going for like 30 minutes so far. It's not even. My rating overall. So I'm gonna give the. Oh, pull it up. Sorry. The track. So I'm giving the regular track listing a 4.25 out of 5 for the regular, because I was thoroughly entertained. I enjoyed everything I heard. I mean, other than what we talked about, but if I were to just say, hey, if I were to say to someone, hey, would you want to have a listen to this? And they would get back to me, I guarantee they'd say that was a great album. As far as the deluxe edition goes, I'm gonna give it a 3.75 out of 5. Because those tracks, like we all kind of are unanimously agreeing that the deluxe edition tracks are not holding up as much as the regular track listing, which is totally fine. That's not a slur to the deluxe edition tracks either. That's just saying that we prefer the standard edition, all 11 tracks, over the deluxe edition, which is still fine either way. Overall, it was a great listen through, and I'm really happy that Mike, picked out this album. And so my for the deluxe edition, 3.75 out of 5, and for the standard edition, truthfully, I'm going 4.25 out of 5. I felt pretty good about this one.
Yeah, absolutely. It was definitely like, it's cool to see that they're still kicking, still rocking, and yeah, definitely. It was funny. Some of the lyrics were like, there's one about spiders. The spiders are coming or something like that. I was like, what the hell? Like, what's going on? Like,
he knows the next apocalypse is going to happen with spiders.
I just didn't expect to hear that in the song. I was just kind of caught off guard. I was like, did he say that? I'm not sure. I'm like, because I don't read the lyrics alongside the music most of the time. I end up listening to the album and then going back and reading some lyrics that I, to the songs after the second time, when I hear something that just kind of catches me off guard. And I was just like, that was bizarre. But very some strange stuff there, but overall, solid album.
Any other last minute thoughts, guys? Any other concluding final thoughts on Scorpions as band or Rock Believer? What do you got? Anything at all?
Well, I'll just finish by saying, if they're up there in age now, if they do have to have a last album, which eventually everyone does, I'd be satisfied if this was it. I think that this is a fantastic album. Not many artists at the age of mid 70s are still releasing things of this quality. So, I hope it's not, but if it is, I'd be satisfied with their career.
Awesome. Mike, any last minute thoughts at all? Are you good?
Oh, that's all good, man. Rock on, Germany, rock on.
Rock on, Germany, rock on. And we want to thank you, of course, for listening and watching as always. If you like what you've seen here, subscribe to our YouTube channel, the Super Review Show. We did this on Tuesday instead of Monday this week. It was Labor Day. We took the day off. I was also super busy. Don't ask me why. Whatever. I was not working, I promise. But if you like what you've seen here, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We do this every week on a Monday night, and we do live. And if you haven't already, subscribed to us on podcast format. We do this on podcasting it's uploaded the following day to Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast. Check us out. But thank you so much for watching and listening. We'll see you guys next.